Hello, buddy. Sam here, engineer, MBA, and investor. And in today's video, I want to talk about the FDA. I want to talk about why I believe starting this year and for the following foreseeable future, the FDA is going to approve CRISPR clinical trials at a much faster rate, give them priority, give them priority designation, whatever needs to happen to allow these CRISPR companies to get their programs to tackle these rare diseases as soon as the latter part of this decade. So, why am I talking about this? Well, a couple of things. First, I saw this podcast episode and I kind of covered a piece of that episode for something completely unrelated. But I now want to cover another piece of this podcast episode, of course, posted by community member Yair. And this was, of course, on Stat News. They kind of had an interview with a couple of people on the panel. And I want to play this episode and then we'll go ahead and comment on it.
The regulators have historically been, at least in the US, been fairly conservative about gene editing, at least when you're going directly in the body. Lots of concerns, understandably. Largely, they've gotten laxer. Peter Marks has said we were too tough. We've got to allow more trials to start. But what a certain group of academics, and there are biotechs who are largely behind this, including Prime and others, want regulators to do is to allow them to make a gene editor for one disease or one mutation that causes a rare disease, what have you, and then with minimal work, go and design a new editor that goes after a different mutation that causes the same disease or a related one. And the idea there is that there's so many rare diseases, there's so many conditions and so many individual mutations within those conditions that it's just not possible to develop new drugs for each one if it's going to cost you X millions of dollars or, as it often is, X billions of dollars to bring it to market. And the FDA is receptive to that, it seems. There was a workshop held. Academics seem like they're going to try to push on this and see how far they can go.
So that's an interesting episode. So a couple of things here. First, they mentioned that you can't actually scale to tackle every single disease if every single program needs to go to 8 to 13 years, which is actually the median time from the moment a program is introduced, preclinical, all the way to approval, about 8 to 13 years. In between those years, obviously there are exceptions, but that's the idea. It's just not scalable to tackle every single rare disease like that. So what they propose here is that, well, what if the FDA looks at it in a way where you're just changing a specific editor, you're still tackling a certain set of mutation, but you don't have to go through the full loop of approval because you've already approved XY. Now you just have to approve the last Z part of the equation. And the last Z part would be maybe changing the editor, maybe changing a specific part of that gene editing process. And of course, we're talking about CRISPR, Cas9, Cas12. We're talking about CRISPR beam editors or base editors rather, or prime editors. We're talking about these specific methods that you can kind of alternate a specific editor so that you don't have to go through the full phase 1, preclinical, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, pre-approval, post-approval, all that process, reduce cost, reduce time. And of course, with the new US administration, just like I covered in yesterday's video, we believe in this channel that the FDA will have a mandate to look into this seriously, especially when the head of the US Health, who was just committed to this past week, actually invested in CRISPR Therapeutics. And they've said in the panel they know a lot of people that have had sickle cell disease and have sickle cell disease and no cure until, of course, last year when Casgevy was approved, of course, with Bluebird, but we're not going to talk about Bluebird. So I want to also kind of get our attention to this article here. Kind of relates everything together, and I'm not going to go through the whole article here, but Yair also posted this today, and it's basically an article talking about how China is doing a lot of work to get some of these drugs approved at a faster rate. They're getting more drugs approved at a faster rate, cheaper than the US rivals, faster, cheaper, and of course more efficient, arguably, because they're getting a lot more licensable deals. You don't see it here, but on the bottom left of that article here, it talks about the share of global drug licensing deals from China, and you can see it kind of increases from 2020 all the way to 2025. And 2025 already has about 25% of the market share of global drug licensing deals coming from China. So China is doing a lot of things here. We've known this for a while. We know the incident in 2018 with CRISPR, with of course the individual there that try to take the matter in their own hands and use CRISPR in the germline of a couple. So clearly, China has been involved in this quite a while. But you see these types of articles and it makes you wonder, well, we have two problems here. First, we just took a look at why the FDA takes a long time, why we believe there's a path for them to improve that process, reduce the time, get it more efficient, cheaper. But on the other hand, you're also getting a severe competition in arguably the biggest rival for US, which is of course China. And obviously a lot of people are focused on electrical vehicles coming out of China, goods coming out of China, chips, AI coming from China, of course, with DeepSeek, which is basically what this article kind of referenced pretty much as the title states. But everybody forgets about biotech. Everybody forgets about genomics. And believe me, China is all over it. And if they're all over it, then I believe that countries like Canada, US, UK, the European Union, they have to review their process and get some of these processes shorter. Of course, you want to be conservative, you want to protect your citizens. That's your first mandate for any public government agency. Basically, is to protect their constituents, which is basically their citizens. But by delaying processes, by not investing further into these groundbreaking technologies, by treating CRISPR like any other technology that we've had for decades, you're kind of not protecting your citizens in a way where the Chinese government is coming up faster. And believe me, it's not just China. There are other countries that are doing a lot of work in this space. You talk about Russia, you talk about certain countries in Middle East, you talk about certain countries in Asia. Forget about just China, right? So I truly believe this year we're gonna see significant change. And I kind of heard the argument, especially today, this morning, I read it again, is that of course the U.S. administration is looking into cutting bureaucracy, cutting individual employees from the FDA. And a lot of people are like, well, if you cut people, that doesn't necessarily mean you get it approved faster. I kind of disagree with this statement. I mean, just use any private business. The more employees you have, the longer it takes to get anything done. Everybody knows this. This is known. That's why startups always take over a new industry, because they're coming with less baggage, less employees, a leaner team, a leaner company to go public with their product at a faster rate and improve on it on a faster rate. Nothing changes on the government side of things. It's the same story. The bigger the agency is, the more people are involved, the longer it'll take. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that having more people was just net negative in all fields. Clearly, by having more people, you may benefit one way or another. For example, you may become more conservative, right? You may increase safety, but in contrast, you're decreasing the speed of these drugs to get to the market. And you could argue that that's more dangerous than having more people on the team. It's food for thought. I want to get it out to you guys because I want to kind of talk about these two, like it's like a balance you're juggling with at a given time, right? On one hand, you have the FDA, that's kind of where the Americans at least, or it's not just the FDA, by the way, Health Canada in Canada, UK, they have their own regulatory body, European Union, and so on. Each of these countries, each of these regions, their regulatory health agency want to be conservative, but at the same time, they want to speed through these processes so that we can tackle these rare diseases that are taking people's lives every single day. But on the other hand, you have China going full speed into this, and you're kind of juggled in a way where you want to be conservative, but at the same time, you don't want to be left behind. And I think it's an interesting juxtaposition that we're into. And I think it's an interesting time we are living. I think 2025 is the year things change in the FDA. I think the genomic space, not just CRISPR, but genomics as a whole and biotech as a whole, they go on a bull run. We've been in a bear market for well over 3 years now, 3 years and a half, arguably. It's been a long time. It's time to get back. I think people are eager into entering the space. And to prove that, we've had over 500 unique viewers for a video from last weekend. I didn't even see that many viewers in the 2021-2022 bull run. And we're in a bear market. Imagine what happens when you enter in a bull run. So, guys, I'm going to end this video like this. Guys, as always, subscribe if you're not. Please do subscribe. Like this video, guys. It puts our videos on people's homepage. And if you comment, it increases engagement, increases popularity of these videos. Let me know what you guys think about this video. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a beautiful Sunday. Very sunny here in North America, northeast of America, specifically in Toronto, Montreal. Extremely snowy. So wherever you are, hopefully you're safe. It's a long weekend for many people in North America. So enjoy your long weekend, and we will talk in the next video. Thank you.